Hi guys, this is Anderson from NWOTHM Full Albums. I'm here with Jarvis Leatherby from Night Demon, and we're going to make an interview with him, and it's nice to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Night Demon is actually one of the reasons that I started this channel. When I listened to Curse of the Damned, that was when I realized that was something going on, that were not just a few bands doing this.
That's cool, man. That's an honor. Thank you. Really, because I felt that we came on a little bit later than the movement had started years before us. You know, with like Cauldron and Enforcer and Skullfist and bands like this. You know, we didn't come on in the scene until later. I mean, granted, we've done a lot more than most any band since then. As far as touring and production and like output, I'm not gonna, I mean that's what I mean by doing more, just in that respect alone. I'm not discrediting anybody else, but no, that's an honor to us because when we started the band in California, we had no knowledge of the subculture and around the world that anybody would care about this stuff. Really, we had no clue at all. We just did it for fun. We did it for ourselves, and then with the internet, I mean, that thing came about, and we found out that other people around the world still like this kind of music. So it's been our goal ever since to kind of do what you're doing in the way of making the scene rise all together, and we promote a lot of bands. It's not just about what we're doing. So very cool to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. I saw you guys opening for Accept in Eindhoven, and around 7 months later, you are back to Europe to promote your live album. How's the reception going to Live Darkness?
Great, really, really good. Honestly, better than I expected. It being a triple live LP, I mean, it's not the cheapest, most affordable record, but it's sold very, very well. I think we debuted at number 43 on the German charts, so, I mean, that's really good. We were beating out records, not just metal albums, but just in general, and that was really a surprise to me. But that just goes to show, man, the testament of our fans. Our fans are hardcore, and our fans still do buy physical copies. And I mean, for us, it's the live album is like the greatest thing that we could have done. I mean, we're a totally live band, and it came at the right point in time for us. A lot of the press was critical about it being too soon. Only having an EP and 2 full-length studio albums, but I don't think so. I think that a lot of the bands that I love, I hear their first live album after album 4 or 5 or something, and you always want to hear the earlier days, and you can never find anything with good quality, it's always bootleg stuff, and so we didn't want to do that. We wanted to capture this moment in time, and we successfully did that. So.
Yeah, I'm been reading the reviews, and they're not mostly, but I think all of them are positive.
Yeah, I think we've maybe gotten 1 negative review on it that I've read, And the same with the other studio albums. I mean, it's like 99% positive. So we're fortunate enough that a lot of our fans are in the press, I mean, really, we couldn't ask for anything better than that, A lot of journalists, metal journalists, really like what we do,
Live albums are not as popular as they were in the 80s, especially talking about new wave of Christian heavy metal bands. And why do you think that happens? And
well, I think that live concerts and live music in general is not as popular as it was in the 80s. Not at all. Not at all. I personally don't like when people put up YouTube videos of the band live on their cell phone and stuff like this. It's a bad representation of what we do. It's not real. It doesn't capture at all what it's like to be there, what it feels like, what it sounds like, what it smells like, So, I think that's the reason why even less people go to concerts, because they could just watch it at home, or they see a clip of a band and they feel like, oh, I've seen that already, you know, but you haven't seen it until you're there, you know. So that's one thing that I don't like about modern technology. I don't like the cheap videos, you know. I hate them. But I think maybe that's one of the reasons, you know. But heavy metal is a live sport, you know, so live albums are deserved, you know, and I think that, you know, all my favorite bands did live albums, and I was always a big fan of live albums just as a musician, you know. I wanted to hear the show, I wanted to hear what the tones were live, and what the energy was live, and those were always the inspiration for me. Because, you know, when you're in a band like this, when you write songs, you write them with the mindset of playing them live. You know, you're not just trying to write a good song for an album. You're trying to write a song that does something to you, that makes you want to play it live. And you're writing a song that you kind of feel, hey, the audience is feeding off of it on this part, you know, or you always think about how it's going to translate to the stage. So it's just, it was a natural progression for us, and I think it was a no-brainer for us to do a live record.
There's many great bands playing new wave traditional heavy metal worldwide, but some of them already reached the higher status, like Enforcer in Sweden and School First in Canada, and you guys in Visigoth in the United States. Mm-hmm. How do you feel being on the leading edge of a movement that is important to so many people?
I feel great. You know, I feel great about it. It was always our intention, to be honest. You know, I mean, when we decided to do the band seriously, I mean, we quit our jobs, and that was 5 years ago. You know, I mean, we said we were going to give it everything that we had, and we were going to go out and do that, you know. And we played 600 gigs in the last 4 years, and we've traveled the world many times over. We have meetings about the band every day. We're always putting our creative minds together to come up with new things, you know. New things and an old style of music, really, you know. Just new innovative ways to go out and do things, whether that's merchandising schemes or charity things that we do, or the ways that we tour, the festivals that we put on, and all this stuff, you know. So I'm proud of it, but at the same time, I feel like we've earned it, you know. It's not something that I am grateful for it. Don't get me wrong, I'm definitely grateful, but you know, I think all the opportunities that we get now, we've positioned ourselves to be ready for those opportunities, you know. Like it's different if you right out of the gates when you start a band, if everybody's like, you're an overnight success, you know, and everybody's like, oh, throwing everything at you, then it's like, it's pretty overwhelming, and it's like, wow, this is happening. But, you know, now when, like, Vakken calls and says, hey, we want you to play, you know, I'm like, okay, it's about fucking time, you know. I've been waiting for this call, you know what I'm saying? So, and that may not sound like the most modest approach, but I am really proud of what we do, and, like, we work so hard at it that, I do feel that way, that, you know, it was our intention to help lead this scene, you know. And I don't think we're better than anybody, but I think that we are the right band to be leaders, to be part of the leaders of the scene, and to help the other bands that deserve to be seen and to be shown, that maybe don't have the right mindset or experience or the right mental frame of mind or the right drive to go out and do that for themselves all the time, you know. So we take that upon our back, you know, and we're somewhat of a martyr for heavy metal, you know.
And that's the nice thing that I think about when I think about this movement, because I'm not in a band, I'm an outsider, but I know a lot of bands, and I interact with them, and it's nice to see how united the bands are.
Absolutely.
They keep promoting each other.
Absolutely. I mean, you're only as good as your guys are. You know, I mean, we don't want to be the only band out here doing this, because then there's no scene. And a lot of places there is no scene, and we create the scene. You know, where there is no scene, you create it. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, especially in the early days, when we would just go and tour anywhere that we could. I mean, we would go to a town where we knew that 2 people liked us, you know. But those 2 people turned into 4, and those 4 turned into 8, you know. And like, because there was no heavy metal scene. But the more and more we went, and the better shows that we were putting on for people, they got into it, you know, and the scene was created, you know. So that's... The world is a very big place, you know. Yeah. It's small. It's smaller now because of the internet, but it's very big geographically, and there's a lot. There's never enough places that you can play, you know.
I think you already played in my home country, Brazil.
Yeah.
You played there already?
We played more shows in Brazil on a tour than any other heavy metal band in history. Yeah. And we did 36 flights in 28 days, and we played every night. And we went to villages. We were flying in on dirt airstrips, you know, and we were in the jungles. We played everywhere, you know, and that statistic was told to me by agents and promoters in Brazil. I didn't make that up, you know. I mean, that's what I was told. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. You must have traveled a lot because it's such a big country.
Absolutely, yeah.
In an interview to a German website, Power Metal DE, you said, "There has to be a future for heavy metal, and someone has to have the courage to risk something." When you were asked about the possibility of redlining a great festival, how do you imagine the future of heavy metal, especially the sound that we like, and of Night Demon?
It's tough to say, you know. I can speak for us, you know. I mean, if I know the future of Night Demon. I know where we're headed, you know, and I know what our intentions are. It's a strange position right now because you have older bands that are dying off, but you have younger bands that are coming up that aren't quite as big, you know. Whereas back in the old days, there were younger bands that became bigger than the older bands. You know what I'm saying? You had Van Halen open for Black Sabbath on their first tour, and that never happened again. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Van Halen became a big band after that. Things like this. Iron Maiden opened for Priest, and then they surpassed that, you know? Metallica opened for Ozzy, and this surpassed that. You know, I mean, you have that. I think it's different these days because heavy metal is not a mainstream form of music. There is mainstream metal, but it's like nothing that any of us want to have anything to do with, you know? I mean, it's just, it's like the new metal stuff and the mainstream, you know, rock radio stuff, hard metal radio kind of rock is just, none of us can really identify with that kind of music. It's pretty fake to us, you know, and it doesn't, it's still metal, I guess, you know, and there's room for it, you know, people like it, that's fine, but as far as our scene goes, you know, I think the best way to have a future in it, as far as bands that have traditional roots, is for the younger bands to take themselves a lot more seriously and start to formulate their own identities. So, for example, if you see a band that wants to sound just like Judas Priest, they're going to sound just like Judas Priest, and they're not ever going to get over that hump. We still have Judas Priest, so they're not going to surpass them. And the other thing is, like, tribute bands are becoming very popular now, which I hate, but it's like that somebody would rather see a Judas Priest tribute band than a young band that sounds just like Priest writing original music, you know? So I think it's up to the younger bands to have their own identity and understand that this is 2018. It's not 1983. It's not, you know? So if you weren't born in 1983, you shouldn't take the stage trying to look like you came from 1983 with all the fashion down to the T. Because that becomes a novelty, you know? People don't take that seriously. They're like, okay, it's a dress-up party, and, you know, they're trying to recreate something that they weren't around for, and that ship had sailed already. Like, it's not it's the recreation is not as good as the original, you know. And while we still have the original, we don't need the recreation, you know. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like I think the bands that are big because they have their own identity, you know. Now, big bands are influenced by great things that came before them, and you hear those influences in there. But overall, they have their own identity, and I think younger bands need to not be afraid to have their own identity, and that's where we will have a future. Is if that. But if everybody's just going to be a bunch of copycats, even in the way that they look, especially their image, you know, then I don't see it growing. You know, I don't. We're doing what we can do as a band, you know. Fortunately enough, you know, things are going well, but we still have our off nights, you know. Like we're still paying our dues, you know, all the time. But that's just part of life. That's part of, like, if you have a dream and a goal in life, it's not easy, and it's not supposed to be. But you have to keep moving forward with it regardless, and hopefully, you know, at the end of it, you can lift your head up and just say, wow, like, that was a pretty good body of work, you know, and that's kind of where we hope to be.
I was actually blown away by your answer on that interview. I'm going to leave the link on the description. Even if it's in German, you can always translate. But I was blown away because exactly what you said was what inspired me to start this channel, because I was that guy who was always listening to the same bands, the same classic bands, and the same albums. And some of my friends were already listening to some newer bands, and I think it was Steelwing that went to play in my hometown, and some of my friends were excited, and I was like, oh, I don't know who these guys are. I want to go to this concert, and then after some of my heroes started dying, Dio and I realized that these guys are not going to stay here forever.
Right.
And if I don't find something new, I won't have anyone to when they
Absolutely.
are gone. So this is why I started to listening to new bands, and then I decided to create this channel. So I'm also a late comer to the scene.
Right.
But when I came,
You got full on into it, you know? And that's the thing, you know? Like, in the underground scene, it's hard because a lot of the fans even, I mean, not a lot of them, but there are always people in the scene that are insecure, that want to keep the bands down, you know? They want to keep them small, and they want to keep them for their own, you know? I understand that. But if a band's not selling out and changing the way they sound or whatever to become a famous band, then if they get more popular, I mean, you should be proud of that band, you know? That's like your band is progressing and they're doing great, you know? And sometimes, you know, in the underground, that's hard. And that's happened since the beginning of time. You know, that's not a new thing. And that happened to all the big bands, the bands that are big now, that happened to them in the 80s too, you know? But, you know, the thing is, like, because you say, like, you came in late to it, right? I think that's great, honestly. I think that's better than being there from the beginning and being bored with it and then seeing it kind of, you know, because, like, you know, we get played now on a lot of, like, modern rock radio and stuff, and people get into us, people that don't, same thing, like, they don't know about this scene of bands, you know, and I think that's great. Like, you have to be exposed to something at some point in your life, you know. If you're just sitting there listening to Five Finger Death Punch and Disturbed and stuff, it's because you don't know any better. You know what I'm saying? If you show these people something better, then if they're smart, they'll pick up on it and they'll be like, wow, this is great, you know. But they have to be in a position to hear it, you know, and all the shitty stuff is played on every radio station and on TV all over the world. So a lot of people, that's just what they're exposed to. That's what they think metal is, you know? But if you could show them something, you're never too old and it's never too late to get into something good. I mean, that's the way I see it. If you don't know about it, how the hell are you supposed to know? Yeah, I mean, you know, so.
that thing that you talked right now, and I think that even some heavy metal channels on YouTube, especially, that they actually they don't help the scene because there's some videos where they show heavy metal to people that don't know heavy metal, and they always choose things that are going to shock the people.
Right.
They never put something that it's a nice band to listen, even if you don't like heavy metal. But they always choose like the Cannibal Corpse and this kind of stuff, just to shock the people and get a reaction. And I think that this is not helpful at all.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, you know, but it's like, it's a weird cycle. If you like have a press channel and that's how you make money, you want to go with what sells or what people want to hear, or you want clicks on your website, you know, like that's what you go with. But at the same time, if you're a big media outlet for metal, it's also, I think, your responsibility to let the public know about what's good, about what's really good, even if it's not as popular, because it's your job to make it popular, right? You know?
Yeah.
So that's the way I see it. It's double-edged sword in everything media, you know?
Yeah. After one EP, 2 studio albums, and now the live album, what's the next step for Night Demon? Does the good ratings, the good reviews that you have to all of your releases put you in any kind of pressure to...
Fuck yes. Completely, 100%. You know, when we first started the band, there was no pressure, because nobody knew we didn't think anybody was even going to care. Not one person. We didn't think one person was going to care, to be honest. Not one person. But there's been pressure since the first release, man. You know? I mean, you can't get Album of the Year twice. Fuck, when we got it the first time, I was like, okay, guys, there's only one way to go from here, when that's down. So let's be proud of this accomplishment, you know? We did it on our first record, you know? Then the second record happened, and again that happened, and it got Album of the Year in twice as many publications this time, and fan vote Album of the Years and stuff, which is very important to us, you know? And it just blew my mind, man. I just couldn't believe it, you know? And then we did the live album, and then that charted even higher than the last studio album. So, I mean, like, I would be happy if we quit right now, to be honest. Like, if my arms fell off today and I couldn't play, you know,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have any regrets about this band's career, and how much we put into it, and the results that came out of that, you know. I would say that every single one of my favorite bands of all time have, at one point in their career, made a pretty crucial misstep that I did not like. I think every single one of them has had that. Or at least a period where it was just not as good as what was before, and it either continued down that path, or it took a long time for it to come back up. And even when it came back up, it was never as good, you know? So I have a lot of questions about that, about our own mortality as far as Night Demon, you know? Like, how far do we take this? How much longer will we be inspired, you know? How much touring can we do and how burnt out can we get, you know? Because, I mean, we get pretty burnt out, you know? It's a fucking rough life, you know? It's rough. I don't even own a bed. I don't even own one, you know? So, like, I don't know where I'm sleeping every day. And it's all for the music, you know? And like I said, it is worth it. It is worth it. But creatively, you know, where do we go? So the plan right now is, you know, some people are very prolific writers. You know, there's a lot of bands. I think I'm, you know, I pride myself on being one of the better songwriters out there. You know, I think I'm a pretty damn good songwriter. We can play a lot better than you hear. We serve the song always, you know? But it's only because I've had years and years and years of writing bad songs, you know. So I know the difference between bad and good, and I know when to give up on a song and when to push harder on it. But my point with the whole thing is, you know, some people could just crank out album after album after album after album. Our touring cycles on every album last at least 2 years. That's full 2 years of being on the road. You know, being on the road, it's like impossible to write. You know, for us at least. So the plan is to finish out. We're going to finish out this European tour for the live album. We're going to go home and do our festival, Frost and Fire. And we have like some one-off shows, like really cool stuff we're doing with like Armored Saint, and then another thing with Death Angel, and then we're doing Metal Hammer Paradise with Accept, you know, and so we got some really cool things coming up that don't involve long touring. But the plan is to go home and write album number 3. And is there pressure? Yeah, there's a ton of pressure. But yeah, I'm still writing regularly, but I just kind of, you know, you get into a writer's block thing where it's not that you're not writing, it's that the stuff you're writing is just not good enough to your ear, you know, or, you know, I just always feel like I don't want to repeat myself. I don't need to write Heavy Metal Heat 5 times, you know? But we're a heavy metal band, so what are we going to do? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just, I think you get in your own head sometimes, and I don't want to screw up a perfect track record that we have. I think it's inevitable, though, you know, at some point. So basically, the short answer is that we will go home and get in the studio and spend a lot of time and start writing a record, and it will come out when it's ready to come out. It'll come out when it's good, when it's a good enough album, you know. I mean, I try and put a timetable on it. Like, I know when I want it to come out, but it will come out when it's ready to come out. It'll come out when it'll come out when it's a better album than the last one.
I think it will be worth the wait.
Cool, thank you. I think the fans need a little break too, not just us, you know, because Night Demon's everywhere, you know, and I'm sure some people are like, oh, I can see them next week, I don't need to go tonight, you know. They tour so much. So,
but what you said about you made it on the first album, there's an impression that if a band doesn't make on the first album nowadays, they are probably not going to get a second chance, because can you imagine, like, with so many bands that are out there, can you imagine, for example, Judas Priest, they are a new band and they release Procarolas.
Yeah. No, I could see that. But again, if you put out an album that gets no attention, you really don't have much to lose to trying it again, you know? If nobody gives it any attention, then it's not the end of the world. You know what I'm saying? It's not the end of the world. But if you have attention already and you put out a shitty album, like everybody, it's just I guess it's a sick part of human nature, you know? The world wants to build people up, you know, to like a celebrity status, just so they can tear them down. They just look for holes. They look for something that they could just be like, oh God, they fucked up, like, you know. So I'm sure the fans would love to hear a great Night Demon album, and the Fairweather fans would probably, who knows, maybe they secretly want to see us make something bad. You know, I don't know, man. I've played a lot of psychological games with myself already enough. And the thing that I always try and tell people, especially journalists that are like, hey, you guys are the next big thing, you know? I mean, really, we're just, I don't know if I agree with that, but I think we're the now thing. I think we're current, you know? All the great stuff we're doing is happening now. It's happened in the last 4 years, and it's happening right now, you know? And we're playing at the highest level, so now is the time to see the band, you know? It's here. We're happy with our existing fan base. Like, all we want to do moving forward is to please the fans that we have right now. We want to make them happy. You know, it's not a big goal for us to to become a famous band. We don't want we're not here to be famous personalities, you know. We're here to play rock and roll for the people that absolutely love it, you know, and we appreciate their dedication and how much they give us in return and how much they do for us, you know. And it's a good relationship. We're like in a gang, you know. I like that closeness about it. And yeah, the band has grown. The band's gotten much more popular, you know. However, there's still places where we're not, you know. I mean, we're in we're Den Haag tonight, Netherlands, you know. I have no idea what tonight's going to bring. There could be 10 people, you know. I mean, Raven played here last week and there wasn't many people, and like we did our very first tour with Raven, you know, 50 shows, you know. But so all I know is that if there's 10 people here tonight, they're the 10 most important people to me in this city. They are, and they're gonna get probably a better show than 1,000 people would. You know, I mean, it's happening now. It's all happening right now.
Raven I was here to see Raven, and they were great. They couldn't care less if it wasn't
Right.
A few people only. The opening band, they got a little upset with the
Really?
not with the quantity of person, but how the crowd behaved.
Okay.
Yeah, not kind of just stand out there and then.
Well, I mean, if they don't know who you are, you have to win them over, right? And, you know, here's the thing, and we use this all the time. We tell ourselves this because this is the honesty with it. And you get to learn this by being a professional performer, you know, is what you think the audience thinks is true. So if you feel like you're losing them, it's because you are, you know? If you think that the audience is not liking you, it's because they're not, you know? So you need to do something about that. You know, you need to dig deep and find a way to give them something better and entertain them, you know? That's just the way I see it.
So I know that you're leader of Night Demon, and you play now with Kenneth Ungal, and you also sings for Jaguar, the new wave of British heavy metal band, and you are also manager of a lot of bands, Visigoth, I think, Kenneth Ungal, Satan, and The Witcher, right? How do you do so many things?
It's my passion, man. It's my life, you know? I don't take vacations. I work all the time, but I love what I do. You know, I love what I do. And I'm finding it able to, you know, I'm on the road a lot, but I'm able to do that. And it's like, it's my world. It's my scene, you know? So I travel the world every day, and you know, I have meetings with the record companies and with, you know, whoever. I'm at the club. I'm playing a club every night, so I'm meeting promoters. Right? I have a lot of networking opportunities. So it's easy for me to help in other areas of the scene when I'm a worldly person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, so if one of my bands needed a gig here in this city, you know, it's like, okay, great, I know people there, you know, I mean, I can do that. But, you know, a lot of the thing I never wanted to be a band manager, ever. The reason why I always managed Night Demon is because I never felt like anybody would put as much work into it as I do. I mean, we've had offers from a lot of big management companies, you know, bands that manage very big bands, and who knows? Maybe if we would have done that, maybe Night Demon would be on a higher level than we are right now. But it would have been a lot different, you know. We wouldn't have gotten this organic growth that we've had, and I think it's important that we had that. You know, I think it's important that we went through trial and error, and we made mistakes, and we still do, you know, and we We're here to learn from them ourselves and gain that experience and that knowledge that I could pass on to other bands, you know? So the bands that I do manage are bands that are just so great. Like, in my mind, they're the greatest bands around, and they needed some guidance, or they just needed some help, or maybe they just needed to focus on the art of it all, you know? And stay in that zone and have somebody else help guide their careers professionally, or at least get them the opportunities that they deserve, you know? And that's why I do that.
I think that many bands, newer heavy metal bands, they lack this side of things. Especially when you advertise yourself, you don't know how hard it is to, for example, when I want to put a band on the channel, sometimes I cannot even find on the internet who plays in the band.
Yeah, right. Metal Archives.
Yeah. Yeah, but sometimes there's no there. Sometimes I look at the Facebook page of the band and the information's not there.
See, that's why you guys, that's why you do what you do, man. You're exposing bands to the masses, you know. So I think that's good. You want a beer?
Yeah.
Okay. Here.
Thank you so much.
So, you know, but yeah, I understand. It's like you want to be able to be reached. But again, when Night Demon first started, I mean, we didn't have anything. We didn't have a Facebook page. We didn't have a website. Because we didn't think anybody would care. Honestly, we didn't. But I'm glad they did, you know. Cheers. We're just hanging backstage, drinking beers. No worries about there in YouTube land. You guys should do the same.
Yeah.
But you know, I just you gotta. I think a lot of things come with experience. You know, some people just don't know. They don't know. You know, me and the guys in Nadine, we've been playing music our whole lives, decades. You know, this is not our first band. This is not the first time that we've tried to go out and do something. But you gotta. It's just experience. We've dedicated ourselves to rock, long time ago in our lives. You know, so every day you learn. Every day you continue on. You know, I mean, this is real life for us, and it's always been, and it's going to continue to be. So that's why I think we choose to enjoy every day for what it is, you know. And I would say after so many years of playing and stuff, I'm really happy that I did form 19 when I did, and I'm happy with the musical legacy of it. And all I'm trying to do is keep that intact, you know. So right now we're batting at 1,000, and I don't want to make any crucial artistic mistakes. I don't see myself really doing that. I think that we're more critical on ourselves about making something great, you know? Not that we're never concerned that we're going to make something that everybody's just going to absolutely hate. We're never concerned with that, you know, or that we're going to completely change directions, you know? Like, that's not going to happen.
I'm never going to record load or reload something.
You know what? If here's the truth. If I wanted to do that, I would just start another band. You know? Or even if it was all the guys in Night Demon doing that, we would just call it something else. You know? We wouldn't involve it under our name, you know? But at the same time, it's like I feel when you talk about the guys in Metallica, right? It's like that band is the reason why I do what I do. They are the number one reason. They are the number one reason why I got into metal, you know, at a young age. And like you can imagine how difficult it is that, you know, people want you to play songs that you wrote when you're 18. You know, if I had to play songs I wrote when I was 18, if I had to do that every night, fuck, kill me now. I wouldn't even be in the band anymore. I wouldn't, you know. I mean, but that's the thing, you know, there's that kind of pressure that these guys have. And at the time, I think that they made those albums, that they made Load and Reload, I mean, they had already been a band for a decade and a half. They were super fucking, like, popular. And that band just turned, I mean, it turned into a whole enterprise, a whole business. You know, I'm sure people's livelihoods are surrounded. I mean, that band was responsible for many, who knows, hundreds of people's lives, you know? So I'm sure when they wanted to do something like that, you know, I mean, the record company, there's no way that they're gonna not let them call that Metallica. You know, it's like the name is what sells. You know, so. But you know, there's a lot of different ways I see it. You know, it's plus, you know, like I said, I've been in fucking over 30 bands. You know, those guys have been in one band. Some of those guys their whole lives. They've never got to play other kinds of music with anybody else. I've gotten to play all kinds of different styles of music. It's not Night Demon, you know, but I had that outlet. They don't. So there's I have a lot of understanding for the guys in that band, and I also,
I have to keep looking.
Sorry, man.
Yeah.
I have a lot of understanding for the guys in that band, and I also feel that, like, who knows what it's like to be somebody like that's that famous. Like, you can't even have a personal moment to yourself. You walk out on the street and, like, everybody's going to approach you no matter where you are in the whole world, you know? As a heavy metal band, it's just crazy to me, you know? It's crazy to me. Like, so, I mean, I don't know if I would aspire to be that big, you know? Like, I mean, God, if it ever happened to us, I mean, I guess, I mean, that would be great, but I wouldn't dumb down what we did, what we do. You know what I'm saying? It's like we would still be Night Demon. I wouldn't turn it into a Disney band. Like, I wouldn't stop cursing from the stage if that's what I felt like I naturally do, you know? I wouldn't play big mainstream festivals that had nothing to do with rock music. You know what I'm saying? Or television things. You know, like, it's just, there's certain things that are outside of the realm of metal that I mean, we just don't belong there, you know, and that's okay, you know. So, I don't know. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But just to let it clear that I love Metallica. One of my friends used to have the VHS from Live Shit.
That's the shit that got me going, dude. That box set, I bought that the day it came out. My grandfather drove me to Music Plus. I think it was like $90. I bought it. It was like 1994, I believe that came out. 93 or 94. I bought it the day it came out. I spent all the money I had on it. And man, I watched that Seattle video and the Mexico City videos.
Yeah.
I mean, the San Diego videos. Like, so much, man. So much. And that was like, that changed my whole life, man. That changed my whole life. So,
I used to watch it every day.
yeah,
So.
I know, man. Me too. I wore out the damn tapes, you know?
Oh, and I didn't even mention the Frost and Fire Festival. When I look at the poster of that thing, I wish I have a teletransportation or something to just go there and watch all those bands. So you are the promoter also.
Yeah, well, with that, you know, I used to promote a lot of shows when I was in high school. And then right out of high school, I started getting really serious about it. For like the first 3 years I was out of high school, I actually dropped out of high school. I didn't finish high school. I had a friend that was in a band and they were going on tour. And he asked me if I wanted to tour manage the band. And I was like, what? You know? And I thought, this is my opportunity, man. I'm never, like, I need to get on the road, you know? So I left school. I didn't finish school. And I went and toured with the band. And it all kind of started from there. I started meeting more people and doing more tours and doing a lot of promotions where I lived, you know, in Southern California. I did King Diamond a couple times, Slayer, Merciful Fate when they reunited on the 9 tour. I did them. I did the UFO reunion shows in California with Shanker, Pete Way, and Phil Mogg. Rat, Cinderella, Quiet Riot, all those hair bands from LA. Wasp. I mean, the Foreigner, the Cult, the list goes on, man. I promoted a lot of concerts when I was very young. I started doing it before I was 18. Like, I probably wasn't even old enough to legally sign these contracts, you know? But I made that stuff happen. And so when Night Demon started touring around the world and playing all these metal festivals, I thought, there's nothing like this in California, you know? And I have a big background on bringing big bands over there, you know? So let me take my expertise in that and let me learn from all these festivals around the world that we play what I like about them let me take and do, and what I don't, I'll eliminate. You know, so it was a great learning experience for me. And you know, every year we do it, we grow, and excuse me, we make adjustments and try different things. You know, but I mean that's all it is. You know, I think there was room for it. There was a hole there that needed to be filled, and we were going to be the guys to do it. You know, so far so good. You know.
I was very tempted to go to the UK.
Uh-huh.
You had a UK edition this year.
Right.
But I'm currently out of job, so I could go if I really forced to
Right.
go, but I didn't want to risk.
Yeah, you got a wife and kids and
Yeah.
a dog, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's definitely on my bucket list of things to do. And you mentioned King Diamond, Mr. Fate. These are my favorite bands of all time, and I didn't have the opportunity to see them live. It was funny because they went to Brazil.
Rock in Rio.
For the first time in
Right? The Rock in Rio Fest, right? Didn't they do that?
No, they went another festival.
Okay.
Another one. But they went there after more than 20 years because they went to the Monsters of Rock in 96.
Right.
96. I wasn't even I was 8 years old. So,
Right.
And they returned there, but when they returned, I was here already. So
Right, okay. You will get to see them. We'll talk off camera, but you will get to see Merciful Fate again. Yes, you will.
So
I have some information.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. This is fucking cool. When I was browsing through your website to get information for the interview, I saw a project there that I think is really nice. It's the Metal Cares.
Uh-huh.
It's a non-profit brand created by Night Demon focused on scholarships for the underprivileged in your community, working with the IMCA and merch relief, aiding victims of natural disasters. I think that's very nice of you guys. Is this project still going on? Because I noticed that the last information there is about 2017.
Yeah, it is. We had a little bit of a bump this year because of all the activity that we've had, but we've been trying to find the right thing to do this year. We have what we've been doing is reprinting a lot of that merchandise and taking it on tour and donating it, you know, so we take the money on tour. We haven't done like a big internet pledge drive, kind of what we've done before this year yet, but we're working on something. Also, part of the Metal Cares thing is, you know, when we did our live record last year, we did it in Cleveland, Ohio, and we did a benefit show where about 800 or 900 people showed up for the recording of the live album, and we were able to bring in over 10,000 pounds of canned food for the homeless, and we had over 10,000. Actually, sorry, we had over $10,000 of donations. No, we donated our merchandise money to them as well, and I don't know the count of the food, but it's more than 10,000. It's like tons and tons, like literally truckloads full of food that we brought in for the homeless. So like we're always doing stuff like that anytime we can, and really it's easy, and I think more bands should think about stuff like that because, you know, hey, look we're homeless ourselves. That's the truth. All right, me and Dusty and Armand, we don't have places to live. It's funny. But you know, when we travel so much, it's kind of doesn't really make sense, you know. But you know, so we're homeless guys anyway, so we know what it's like, right? We know what it's like. People help us on the road, so we should be able to help people. But what I mean by more bands should do that is that it doesn't. We're not going door to door saying, "Oh, can you please help?" You know, we're not working labor 8 hours a day to try and help other people. We're simply using the popularity of our business, of our band, and putting it out there and creating something really cool for our fans that our fans want to have, exclusive items that have something to do with this, and then our fans are also have the knowledge that the money that they're paying to buy these things from the band, the money is being donated 100%, you know, to people that need it, you know? I mean, so that's got to make you feel good, right? I mean, that should make everybody feel good. So I think more people should think about that, you know, because no matter how bad off you are, I guarantee you, there's always somebody that's way worse than you know, and it feels good to help people, you know, it does. I recommend everybody just try it once, you know. You're never gonna help somebody else out and go, God, I feel terrible by doing that, you know. I mean, you're not, you know. So that's what it's about. Metal Cares. That's the brand we created. Hashtag Metal Cares. Anytime you see that, that's it giving back. And you know, it's Metal Cares, right? So we would like other people to join. Excuse me, it's this beer, to join in on our brand, you know, of metal caring, and that's really what it is, you know. So, I mean, I know Metallica has the All Within Their Hands Foundation, and they donate stuff all the time. I think they should join Metal Cares though.
Maybe they will.
Yeah, right.
This interview.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not sure if you were familiar with New Wave Frisian Heavy Metal Full Albums before this interview, but I'd like to ask you, what's your honest opinion about a platform like this? Most labels and bands see the positive side of this work I've been doing, but there are some, especially the biggest ones, that are still against it. Mm-hmm. So what's your opinion?
I have multiple opinions about it. Yes, the answer is yes, I did know about the channel before you reached out to me for this interview. I've known about it for quite some time. I never had a problem with it. I liked it, and I've actually discovered a lot of bands on that, to be honest. Because I would sometimes just let stuff play on YouTube, and it would just play to another thing, you know, that you would have up there. And I liked to see when our first album came out. I liked to see. I mean, it was great to see how many views you got on how many people were listening to our album on that channel, and also to hear now that we helped inspire the channel. So how can I not love that, right? How can I not like that? The other side of it is, as an artist, yes, you're talking to a homeless guy who basically, I'm a traveling t-shirt salesman, you know. I have to go from city to city to try and make a living by selling my records, right? So if it's going to be out there for free, you know, it's like music, like, and art, it seems to have no value anymore to the public. And I completely disagree with that notion. Because I know how difficult it is to create, and I know how much it costs to create. And I know how much it costs to sustain it, okay? So I'm in a unique situation where I completely understand. Dude, the Metallica guys were right with the Napster thing. They were totally right. They were completely right about it, and nobody wanted to believe them, you know? Do I think they should have went out and sued the people that downloaded the songs? Probably not, no. Do I think they were right about owning what they create and how it's presented to the world? Absolutely, 100%. I think the record companies should have been smarter, and instead of trying to shut Napster down and shut people down, or YouTube, right? They should have joined them. They should have found a way to hire those people and work with them and just accept the fact of technology changing, you know? But that didn't happen, and that's why the record industry is falling apart. And for good reason, you know? That's fine. Music and art will survive. But it's become a cheap commodity now, you know? And it's unfortunate, you know? It's very unfortunate. So how many... Obviously, you don't have our most current record up there because we're on Sony Records now, and Sony, there's no way that they would know right away if you did that, and they would probably block it because there's some big corporate conglomerate, you know? Like, that's just the way it is, you know? Our label got bought by Sony, so that's our situation, you know? The people at the top I guarantee you have no idea who 90 Minutes is. Okay, so it's just the way it is, you know, and I understand how that is. But how many views do you think you would say our first album has that you on your channel?
I think that the first album it doesn't have many views because I uploaded in the beginning of the channel, so I didn't have many
Okay,
viewers.
got it.
Yeah, but if I post an album that's a long-awaited album, even by a band that's not as big as Night Demon is, I think it's 6 to 7,000 in a week.
6,000 or 7,000 in a week. Yeah. I mean, I think that it's good. It's good for fans to have a platform to go to like this, to discover bands of a scene that they really like. It's a good place to, like, you're doing a good thing for the scene, okay? You are. Because if you're not going to do it, somebody else is going to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not the only person to upload an entire Night Demon album on YouTube. I'll tell you right now. You are not alone, okay? But I see what you're doing with your channel. You're going out and you're finding obscure bands or new bands, and you've created a name for yourself where, like, bands are now approaching you and saying, dude, please put this up there, because you're almost like the modern-day fanzine or newspaper. You're an audio newspaper, or a radio station, I should say, that plays full albums from a small traditional scene that people are very interested in, you know? And luckily enough, people in our scene, they like to buy physical copies of the record. So if they hear something they like, a lot of them will go and buy it. Or they'll support the band, or go to their Bandcamp page and pay for a download, right? So that's cool. So I don't have a problem doing what you're doing. With you, I don't have a problem with you doing what you're doing. But as an artist, I would like I would appreciate it. I would appreciate it if anybody out there wants to take something that I've created, you know, and put out into the world, and wants to do something with it and expose it, to approach us about it and ask us and let us know what their intentions are with that. I think that's fair. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah.
I think that's fair, you know? Because, I mean, like, it's like, what if, I mean, I know how much work you put into that channel, you know? Like, what if I just started a channel, called it Better New Wave of Traditional Heavy Metal Albums, and I took all of your work and downloaded everything that you did and put it all on my channel? Like, that's not cool, you know? That's not cool.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think that's the best thing moving forward. I think the public is wrong if they think that it's their right to be able to do whatever the hell they want with somebody's copyrighted artwork. 'Cause they're not. It's completely against the law. It's completely against the law. The law says no. And you can get sued over that shit. Unfortunately, not a lot of people are doing that, because it costs, the amount of money it costs, it's way more than the amount of money that you're going to get back. But there's a principle behind it, you know? And when is enough enough? When is it at a certain point where their copyright doesn't even exist anymore, and everybody can just copy each other, you know? There's a lot of bootleg markets with t-shirts and shit too, you know? People make livings making t-shirts of bands and selling them, and the bands have nothing to do with it, you know? I mean, like, how wrong is that? That's so wrong. Bands pay artists to do their work, and then bands have to put their name on it and go out and sell this stuff, and then somebody's going to take that from them for free, you know? I mean, there's the other side of it where, hey, it spreads the popularity of the band, which is true, right? You know? You're getting the name out there, you know? But at what cost, you know? I mean, we're already working hard to get the name out there, trust me.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Hey, I see it both ways, but those are my honest opinions about it. As a creator and a fan, you know? I am still a fan, you know? And I've gotten turned on a lot of really cool bands by your channel. Dude, bands that I never even heard of. And you gotta think, I'm very involved in the scene. I'm a festival promoter, man, you know? It's good for me to know who the new bands are, right? It's good for me to know. I'm not always going to see them on tour or at a festival, you know? It's good for me to know who's out there, who's coming up, who's brand new, and like your channel does that for me. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. As you are promoting a live album now, I wanted to ask, what are your favorite live albums? Let's see how many we got in common.
Okay, Live After Death first. That's the first one.
That's
I
my
ever
first
got.
one, yeah.
Yeah. Unleashed in the East.
Yeah, another one.
The live shit, obviously.
Yeah.
The whole set. The Mexico City, I guess you would have to consider that the album, you know? So that concert. Then was